I'm Alex Van Ham, and I'm here today at the University of Toronto to speak to students regarding the ongoing free speech debate and to talk to members of a new student group that's forming called the SSFS, or Students in Support of Free Speech. Let's go in and see what their executive has to say.
The Students in Support of Free Speech, also known as SSFS, is a student movement group started in response to a debate on pronouns that Dr. Peterson actually very briefly touched base on in one of his lectures online. It is a movement to promote the freedom of speech for every member of our community, including those we disagree with.
So could you tell me a little bit about the political stance of your group? Is there a general way that most people feel about things, left or right, or is it more of a diverse group of opinions?
The people on the SSFS tend to be all over the political spectrum. So you got people who are pretty much to the right, people who are pretty much to the left, people who are in the middle. The one thing that everyone on SSFS agrees on is the fact that regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, you should respect everyone else's right to voice their opinions. Like, if you take the recent Peterson controversy as an example, I personally agree with the things that Peterson said. A lot of the people who are on SSFS necessarily wouldn't agree with him, but they believe that regardless of their agreement with him or not, he should be allowed to express those viewpoints. The same thing goes with any number of controversial opinions that people out there might want to see silenced or stifled, but we think that it is necessary for academic discourse, for these kinds of discussions to continue.
What our group is about more than anything is expanding the degree of acceptable conversation on campus. We want to expand the Overton Window, which refers to the amount of acceptable conversation that can be held by the press or by society at large, which we consider to be too stringent right now. The problem that we have in the West and Canada in particular is that a far too stringent restriction has been put on what is considered to be acceptable to voice in the public sphere and what public opinions people can have. What we are all about is expanding it so that a greater diversity of opinion about all manner of subjects, a greater diversity of thought regarding everything in regards to politics, religion, to race, to sexuality, to the university itself and how it's run, is allowed to be voiced. Because we already celebrate diversity of stuff like, race, gender, sexuality, but we don't celebrate diversity of thought, the most important diversity to have. So what we need to have is an expansion of the conversation to encompass a greater deal of the political spectrum, and thus we will have healthier conversation, we'll have a better, well-rounded, better argued conversation, and it won't dip far too often into what we consider to be a very unhealthy breed of groupthink.
A lot of people don't feel safe on campus to actually voice their true opinions. If you go around campus, you see much more people with far left opinions actually voicing it and actually saying it. And when they do voice their opinions, there isn't nearly as much backlash as there is for people with right opinions.
The left, the extreme left, or the regressive left, as you may characterize them as, they are in complete control of the press, they're in complete control of the universities, and they hold great sway over the bureaucracy of our governments, whether you're talking about United States, here in Canada, or even in Europe. They have essentially won the culture war. And this is what we are talking about at the end of the day. It's not about any one particular policy, it's about culture. And what we want to fight back against is that sort of extremely strident authoritarian brand of judgmentalism and groupthink that has pervaded these institutions for far too long. It's not about, a left-wing dichotomy. It's about authoritarian versus libertarian.